sincerely had no idea how that was going to turn out. And I told Christine Bombach yesterday, who is a painter, she goes, oh, well, just use water-based and everything will be fine. I was like, I'm using oil. She goes, well, we'll see. Let's actually talk about the story for today. First, will you pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be pleasing in your sight. O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer, and the one who calls us partner. Amen. Who are we? And who are we going to become? No matter what version you're reading or watching or painting, these are the questions that I think gave birth to today's chapter. Indeed, any creation story. But certainly the ones from Genesis. Who are we? Well, for one thing, I'm not a painter. I'm not an artist, as if you needed me to tell you that. But I am a Bob Ross fan. I'm sure I'm not alone. Anyone else? No one else is a Bob? Thank you. And it was a happy little accident 2 weeks ago when I found inspiration while watching his show, The Joy of Painting. The kids and I watch reruns of it fairly regularly, and I'm convinced it helps keep us sane. And I'll gladly admit that I like his artwork, as cheesy as it often is. But I appreciate Ross so much more for all the other things he was doing on his show. And you probably know what I'm talking about if you have ever seen it. Bob Ross wasn't just a painter. He was a mentor and an educator. He taught lessons every episode about the creativity that dwells within each of us, and empowered people to indulge it often without hesitation or shame. He celebrated God's wondrous creation and was always reminding people of our connection to it. And I think he understood better than most of the rest of us our call to encourage one another. He was a teacher who gave lessons on being alive in this world and being a part of it. And so I thought his whole ethos just could have been lifted straight out of today's passage. And so I also thought it'd be fair and fitting to channel his tone a little bit. Now, if you look at the verses in your pew Bibles, for instance, and compare, you may be thinking some details were lost in translation today. Namely, the most familiar parts of what is the lesser-known creation story we've got, or those little sound bites that we've all heard cherry-picked out of context and misused throughout history by a select few to fill the rest of us with things like guilt, and to reinforce certain cultural behaviors deemed normal, and to suppress the rights of women for millennia, those kinds of things. Which is a horrendous irony, because the story is about so much that's the exact opposite. The essence of this creation narrative is actually little items like equality and care and the nearly endless possibilities that were intended for all humanity to enjoy. It's about how since our first breath, human beings were meant for partnerships of all kinds. It's about an enormous amount of freedom in life, just as long as we flow in the same direction as God. That's all it's a matter of. There is no hierarchy in this chapter, contrary to a lot of belief. despite how it's been abused in the past. We are all made of the same stuff. That's what it says. Dirt and holy whispers. Every single one of us. And we were to never forget that, as we were never to stop helping each other and caring for and keeping one another and the beautiful world we live in. It's a fabulous poetic answer to the question, who are we? Which is a timeless question. In fact, I don't know if people have ever done anything unrelated to that topic. At least, I don't believe we've ever stopped giving answers in one form or another, because everything we do, consciously or not, is connected to that subject. For instance, how we drive, right? How we drive. My family and I live just a couple of houses off of Chicago Avenue. And let me tell you, if you ever want to see people showcasing their opinions about themselves, they'd stand at the corner of Scoville and Chicago on a weekday morning, say around 7:50 a.m. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And you shall see some opinions. The amount of cars that come flying through that crosswalk with no regard for human life, despite the flashing lights, despite the signs that read state law, despite the bodies that are in motion. Each one of those drivers is in their own reckless way making a sort of statement about their personhood. Something to the effect of, I am more important. I am more important than these high schoolers and these parents and these children that are just trying to learn and survive. And when I do this, that's me offering a response. No, you're not! In that moment, the two of us are having a conversation about our humanity. All of our interpersonal interactions add to this conversation, and the same goes for when we choose to not interact with others. Oh, I do not have anything to say to that guy. I don't have time. Or maybe, I've got something to do. I've got to wash my hair. Maybe some other time. Or perhaps, but they're halfway around the world. What does that even have to do with me? How we spend our time. Going to the gym or a run, whatever that's like. Or practicing yoga, which I do know something about, even though I don't look like it. Saying with all of those activities, things like, I don't look like I do yoga, so maybe I should start. I don't look good enough. Or, I am worth investing time and energy into being healthy and living a longer, more fruitful life. I'm worth that. We do things like camp, saying things such as, I am worthy of fresh, clean air in my lungs. I am worthy of not having to deal with traffic all the time. We work crazy hours for all sorts of reasons, but we're saying something as we do it. My family is worth every single minute I'm in the office. Or perhaps it's because we know how essential we are to the project, and no one else could possibly do it better than us. Or perhaps we kind of buy into that philosophy of we are what we produce. Same thing with how we spend our money and how we use the powers at our disposal. It's all related to how we self-identify and how we view other people. Some of us have lived more aware of this than others. I personally have not been as attuned to this dynamic for very long at all. Because as a white, middle-class, straight, cisgender, Protestant American male, I never really had to. At least not when it came to my personal benefit. So why would I question things? But this blissful kind of ignorance that I have been privy to is the forbidden fruit produced by a culture skewed in my favor. And I'm one of a very select few that has never had other people imposing identities onto me. And more often than not, all my privilege has been at someone else's expense. And that brokenness is not what any of us were designed to ever taste. We were made to be helpers. Identity. That's what the biblical narrative kind of amounts to, even. A call for people to reconsider themselves and each other in light of this notion that there is at least one thing out there bigger than me. And in our case, at present, there are about 8 billion other people who were also made in that thing's image out of the very same stuff that we were. So here's what we're going to do for the next few months. Is we are going to actively explore these issues of identity and personhood and community and humanity by traveling through some really amazing stories that are a part of our faith tradition that address these topics head on. And we thought it was nice to begin with the beginning, which, among other things, names us happy little creations, but also God's partners, made to tend to all the things on this happy little planet that grow. Trees, animals, and each other. And the name of that